Good morning, people. How you all doing? First and foremost, I guess I should say Happy Workers' Day. Today, I had some thoughts around the aviation forum, which is what we call jet fuel in Nigeria and in some other places. It's important to start by saying that the prices have gone up, and so let's start from the beginning. When the war in Iran started, a few things happened. The cost of crude oil went up. If you've watched any videos I've done in the past, I've always said that there's a relationship between crude oil pricing and what we call distillate or refined petroleum products. When the war, or let me say prior to the war, the benchmark pricing in Nigeria for crude oil was $65 a barrel. What is happening now is that crude oil prices are hovering around $110, $120 per barrel. So that's an increase. While we earn a lot of money in terms of government, in terms of federation accounts, the petroleum products have gone higher. That is one. I must also say, forgive me, this video might be more than the normal 2 minutes. The second thing is this. The premiums also, when you trade petroleum products, you find out that quote unquote demand and supply triggers a lot of premiums. So if premiums were somewhere around $30 per metric ton in the past, they're hovering anywhere between $60, $70, and $90, depending on who you're buying from. So that's the second thing. The third thing is that every time a refinery sells petroleum product, there's what is called a variation cost. More often than not, it's what is called plus or minus 10%. And you do this because if you're shifting products from large tanks into vessels or from ship to ship, there's a tendency that the pump could pump and then there could be product in the line. So you want your letter of credit, which is for financial cover, to cover a plus or minus 10%. The refinery at this stage charges the aviation market as 25% variation cost. That is higher than normal. If we move on, let's go to, before we get to the airside taxes, where FAN charges some taxes, that also takes maybe 20 to 25% of costs for jet fuel. I wanted to speak about NMDPRA, which is our regulator. Now you look at it that the NMDPRA charges 1% on cargo value. 0.5% of that goes to the NMDPRA, and then 0.5% of that goes to MDGIF, which is the midstream and downstream gas infrastructure fund. I do think that as we move forward to be able to solve some of these problems, we need to deal with the issues. If these are the cost items, then the first thing is this. Number one, shouldn't we have variation not more than 10%? That is number one. The second thing is this. Is this a time to revise the taxes that are being taken at the FAN airside and reduce them at this period by half, or suspend them for now? You might say the government makes revenue, but the truth of the matter is that nobody flies. Then what you have is a bigger problem in terms of generating economic activity for some people. The third and final thing, and just before I leave that point, I'd also want to say that if they charge 1%, maybe it's time to start with 0.5% that goes to the NMDPRA. If the people in aviation do not and cannot access MDGIF, if they do not have any gas projects, then maybe they should be suspended from paying for that for now. I also think the 0.5% should not be on the cargo side, but on the margins, quote and unquote. 0.5 or 1% on a $5 million transaction, $10 million transaction is really high. I missed out one point, and I must say this. In January of this year, 5,000 metric tons, let's say 5 million liters of jet fuel, was going for about $5 million. In April, if you wanted to buy 7,000 metric tons, it's over $14 million. So you see the jump. Another thing to add to this conversation is that when a lot of times we hear conversations about the marketers are being this, the marketers are being that, this is not to hold brief on anybody, but you also find out some of these marketers have debts that are being owned by airlines. If airlines sell on a cash and carry basis, then the question is that why can't cash flow management dovetail into your largest input? If it is 40-50%, which is jet fuel, then you pay for it as you lift. But a situation where you're owing marketers 2 months, 3 months, and huge amounts, then there's a charge on it for those marketers because they're using bank funding as it is. Now, if the government says the solution is to suspend some of the, suspension might not be the way. Cut some, jettison some for now. But what is most importantly are the items I've spoken to from the beginning. There's some you can control, there's some you can't control. Finally, to end this video, one thing I'm also going to say is that we must look at how we find how to pad the benchmark prices for the jet fuel, for shall I say from the crude that goes into jet fuel for local production. And I'll explain. If crude oil is $120 a barrel today, and the benchmark price was $65, there is a clear indication that we probably might not need more than 15,000 barrels a day for jet fuel. Our local consumption is not that high. And if it is 20, so be it. Feed that into the refinery, but make sure you're feeding that into the refinery at open market selling price, plus a discount factor, $120 per barrel, minus $65 per barrel. Once you have that delta, split it in two so that we peg jet pricing at a premium, but it's a discounted premium. The effect of that now means that the NMDPA has to ensure that ex-gate prices and ex-refinery prices are published by the refinery. So what it means is that if I impute crude on Monday, what was the cost of that crude if I've imputed it? And then what is my ex-gate price? The notion where we can just continue to increase prices on the day is not a sustainable model. It's important that I say that when we deregulate and liberalize as an economy, it's going to be a market that continues to evolve. I am happy about one thing personally. The gentleman that has now been put as head honcho at the NMDPRA is very knowledgeable about the sector. I'm extremely happy about that. Is he someone that I think can solve most of the problems? In my opinion, he has the sagacity to. He has the ability to. And I do believe he has the boldness to. Once you have that with knowledge and courage, I think that we probably might be on the road to what we call the downstream sector that we want. I'm sorry this video is longer than normal, everybody, but cheers.